In the wondrous world of fighting games, you can find all kinds of characters that pique your interest. But if there's an archetype that'll remain a staple in any fighting game, it's the villains. The antagonists that always go head to head with the heroes. But there's also something they bring along with them: the boss fights. Some boss fights feel like they're easy to get through, while some boss fights feel like an impossible task that can never be overcome without some sort of clean and concise strategy. The strategy may work in your favor, or the boss just uses some cheap overpowered move to bypass it. Needless to say, the Tekken series is no stranger to these archetypes. Throughout its 30-year history, the Tekken series has had a ton of villains. Some might be forgettable or very well-known villains in the series. So in this video, I'll be ranking all the villains and their boss fights in every Tekken game, ranking them from the best to straight up forgettable. In the first game, Heihachi is the first villain. In this game, Heihachi would open the very first King of Iron Fist tournament. In this tournament, Heihachi would not only offer a great amount of prize money to the winner, but also take full ownership of the Mishima Zaibatsu. In the end, Kazuya is the one to make it to the finals and defeats Heihachi. And on top of that, Kazuya throws him off the same cliff that Heihachi had thrown Kazuya off years ago. So in this game, Heihachi doesn't do an entire lot. Just opens up the tournament and waits up until the finals to fight Kazuya. As for his boss fight, he's nothing special. Nothing much to talk about here really, so I'ma put him in just alright. In Tekken 2, Kazuya now takes the role as the villain in the story. As the new ruler of the Mishima Zaibatsu, Kazuya becomes power hungry and becomes much more of a diabolical leader than Heihachi ever was. From drug dealing, trashing dojos, smuggling wild animals, the list goes on. Then he opens the second tournament to further establish his dominance. He then runs into Jun Kazama, who's here to arrest Kazuya for the smuggling of animals. But instead, the two decide to get real intimate with each other off screen. In the finals, Heihachi comes back, beats Kazuya, and throws him in a volcano. Kazuya in Tekken 2 was much more of a villain in this game than Heihachi was, especially since he had the Zaibatsu in his hands, doing all sorts of terrible things to establish his status and meeting up with Jun. Now let's talk about his boss fight, specifically the arcade version. This boss here is the first hard boss in the series. First, you fight Kazuya. Most of the time he reads your inputs, abuses throws, and blocks almost all the time. All you can do is try to hit him if you get the chance. But when you beat Kazuya, you then have to fight against Devil Kazuya. This is where the difficulty increases a bit. In a game where you can't sidestep or barely break throws, Devil Kazuya uses this as an advantage and bullies you. But this time, he has his lasers. Unless you recognize the startup animation, most people will get hit by this move. Honestly, Kazuya being one of the first hard boss fights in the series gives him extra points. So I'ma say both Kazuya and Devil Kazuya go into the best tier. In Tekken 3, we now have Ogre, the god of fighting. Ogre makes his presence known by doing things that affect the overall story. From killing the first king, putting Bekto's son in a coma, and fighting Jun Kazama, which caused her son Jin to think that she was killed by Ogre. Years pass by and Heihachi opens the third King of Iron Fist tournament to lure out Ogre. In the finals of the tournament, Ogre appears and fights not Jin, but Paul Phoenix. Ogre then proceeds to lose to Paul, and Paul leaves. Ogre then transforms into his second form, True Ogre. Jin then battles True Ogre and wins the fight by killing him. Although Ogre wasn't always present like Kazuya was in the previous game, Ogre has done things that have left an impact on the overall story. As for his boss fight, he's not that difficult. Even when he transforms into True Ogre, he's nothing special, except for the fact that he can breathe fire. So I'ma put Ogre in good and True Ogre in alright. But before we go straight to Tekken 4, let's talk about Brian. Brian Fury is one of the few new characters to come out of the Tekken 3 roster and has become a mainstay ever since his introduction. Brian was once a skilled detective, but rumors about him kept following him. One day, Hong Kong detective Lei Wulong would discover that Brian had secret connections with drug dealers, which then ended in a shootout which killed Brian. Brian's body was then taken into a laboratory which was owned by the scientist Dr. Abel. He was able to bring Brian back to life through the use of cybernetic enhancements like being super strong. Dr. Abel then sends out Brian to enter the third tournament in order to steal data from Dr. Boskonovich, and also targets Yoshimitsu because of his ties to Boskonovich. Brian was unsuccessful with stealing the data from Boskonovich, and if that wasn't bad enough, Brian came to the realization that his life was slowly fading away. Brian then seeks out Dr. Abel in order to prevent this. But Dr. Abel had already abandoned Brian a year ago, as he was hired by the Mishima Zaibatsu to be one of its top scientists. When news of the fourth tournament started to spread, Brian entered the tournament to not only take over the Mishima Zaibatsu, but also command Dr. Abel to fix his body. And speaking of which, let's talk about Dr. Abel himself. Dr. Abel is a mad scientist whose creations were made in order to beat his rival Dr. Boskonovich. He's technically been around since Tekken 2. He destroyed Jack 2, who was playing with Jane on a tropical island. In Tekken 3, Jane builds Gun Jack in order to restore Jack 2's memories. She manages to succeed and Jack gets his memories back. They then walk together in the woods. But then Dr. Abel's all like,
"Nah, I don't like you guys being happy,"
and tries to nuke the both of them again. But this time, they both survive due to Gun Jack's force field. Dr. Abel would then be hired by the Mishima Zaibatsu and be one of its top scientists. He's also the one that built the satellite laser for the Zaibatsu that would later be used in Tekken 7. Man, Abel kinda has a thing for satellites, doesn't he? During the tournament, Abel is confronted by Brian, who is shocked to see that he's still alive. Brian then uses every last bit of strength he has left and punches Abel, sending him flying across the room. Now, considering how we never see Abel again after this game, it's safe to assume that Brian killed him. And yeah, that's Dr. Abel. He created Brian and had a hate boner for the Jacks. But let's be honest, most people don't remember him, so he goes into the forgettable tier. After that, Brian falls down unconscious.
Ah, you're finally awake.
Brian is brought to Dr. Boskonovich by Yoshimitsu. This is because Boskonovich wants to cooperate with Brian by helping him with his current condition. He offers to expand Brian's lifespan by mechanizing him, but in return, Boskonovich wants to keep his original body once Brian is reborn in his new body. Brian agrees to this, and Boskonovich tranquilizes Brian in order to start. In the next game, Brian woke up from his sleep, finding out his body remains unchanged. This is because Boskonovich said that Brian's body was too much of a complexity to fully understand. So Boskonovich decided to install a perpetual generator instead, which gave Brian endless power. To show off how thankful he was, Brian attacks Boskonovich and kills the Manji clan members, leaving the lab in ruins. Brian then enters the 5th tournament to test out his newly found power. I also would like to point out how different Brian is in Tekken 5 compared to his future entries. Not only is his voice different, but he also speaks in full sentences.
I'll have to thank you for giving me power! Don't worry, I won't kill you here. I'm gonna take my time and let you savor your death. You lost to me once. Now try and squirm your way out of here. Let the hunt begin.
Despite him not saying all too much, it's nice to actually see him talk than just grunting all the time like he does now. And speaking of which, from Tekken 6 onwards, he has now just become a psychotic cyborg who laughs at every given opportunity. Nowadays, you got Brian saying stuff like this.
What?
Nah, what'd they do to you, bro? And yeah, that's pretty much it for Brian as a whole. Honestly, if this was Brian before Tekken 6, I'd put him in good tier. But now he's not the character he used to be. So I'ma say he's alright. In Tekken Tag 1, we have a new final boss, Unknown, a mysterious woman with a wolf spirit behind her. In Tag 1, her fighting style is unique, because when you press the R3 button on your controller, it changes into almost any random fighting style. She's basically Mokujin if you could change your fighting styles on the fly. She's not that difficult of a boss though, so I'ma say she's alright. Now in Tekken 4, Heihachi is back to being the main antagonist. After the events of Tekken 3, Heihachi and his team were able to get samples of Ogre's blood, despite his body disappearing. The reason why Ogre's blood was collected in the first place was to try and create a new life form by mixing Ogre's blood with Heihachi's. The experiment was a failure, however. Heihachi then realized that in order for this to truly work, he needs the Devil Gene. With that in mind, Heihachi searched for Jin. But during his search, Heihachi learns that Kazuya's body had been taken in by the people of G Corporation. Heihachi then ordered the Tekken Force to go and infiltrate G Corporation, but that failed when Kazuya entered and took them all out. Heihachi then announced the 4th tournament to lure in both Kazuya and Jin in order to take the Devil Gene's power from them. During the tournament, Heihachi sends out the Tekken Force soldiers to go and capture Jin, which they successfully managed to do. Heihachi then fights Kazuya in the final stage of the tournament. Kazuya asks where Jin is, but Heihachi says after the match, he will share the location. Now, I said in my Kazuya video that I believe that Kazuya winning this fight was more believable because there's more stuff to back it up. But anyway, Kazuya wins the fight and Heihachi takes him to Honmari where Jin is being held. Kazuya's devil persona comes in to steal Jin's power so he can become complete, and then thanks Heihachi for saving him the trouble of looking for him. He then blasts Heihachi back, which knocks him out. Heihachi then gets up to see Kazuya slumped on the floor and prepares to fight Jin, but he gets clapped too. Jin, however, lets Heihachi go and then flies away. So Heihachi doesn't really do all that much in the Tekken 4 story. His experiment with Ogre's blood failed, lost to Kazuya, lost to Jin, and failed to get the Devil Gene from both of them. Pretty lackluster compared to his previous entries. As for his boss fight, he's once again nothing special. Even on the highest difficulty, he's not that hard. He's trash! That being said, let's move on to Tekken 5. Now before we talk about that guy, I got 2 other characters to talk about. And the first one I'm starting off with is Feng Wei. Feng Wei is one of the 3 new characters introduced in Tekken 5. He is a Chinese Kenpo master who wants to become the strongest. Feng then broke one of the dojo's rules, that being fighting other people who used other fighting styles. But when his master scolded him for it, Feng proceeded to kill him. Feng then enters the 5th tournament in order to retrieve the secrets of Godfist scrolls that were stolen by the Mishimas. He manages to break into the Mishima Zaibatsu vault and finds the secret scrolls. But instead of finding a secret technique, he only finds one teaching. He who destroys all other fighting styles and makes them his own shall become a warrior superior to all men, the Dragon God. After the tournament, Feng travels around the globe in order to fight against warriors of various martial arts. During the events of Tekken 7, Feng would be defeated by Leroy Smith. And Leroy tells Feng that as long as his approach towards fighting is heartless, he will never reach the true heights of a true martial artist. Infuriated by his loss, Feng continues to travel the world, defeating masters who excelled in fighting styles that prioritize self-defense. In the Tekken 8 story, Feng gets approached by Nina. She then offers Feng a proposal, saying that if he lends his support to G Corporation, they will help him find Leroy. And Feng Wei, still wanting his run back with Leroy, accepts the offer and joins G Corp. During the war against G Corporation, Leroy and Feng come face to face once again, but this time, we don't know who won that fight. And that's it for Feng Wei. He's kinda the same as Brian, except he actually has a goal in mind, he can talk, and he has a rivalry with Leroy. Other than that, he's just alright. Next up, Devil Jin. Devil Jin is one of the few new playable characters introduced in Tekken 5. He's essentially the evil Ryu of the Tekken series, the dark alter ego fighting for control. But instead of using the same karate fighting style as Jin, he instead uses the classic Mishima Ryu fighting style he had in Tekken 3. Although he doesn't appear in the story all the time, he still makes his appearance known. From awakening after Heihachi shot him, destroying a forest, brutally defeating Horang, and most importantly, his conversation with Jin. He then takes Jin through 3 stages of trying to make peace with himself. Stage 1 is Devil Jin taunting Jin by saying walking the path of vengeance was the right way. Stage 2 was basically calling out Jin for the war he caused in Tekken 6. And Stage 3 is where Jin no longer rejects his darker half and asks for his strength. Devil Jin accepts and fully merges with Jin. And that's it for Devil Jin. He's definitely better compared to Brian and Feng Wei, but he doesn't always appear in the story. Even though his screen time in Tekken 8 was limited, his role in the story was essential for Jin to complete his redemption arc. Most of the time when in the games, he's there as a what-if type character, like what if Jin fully lost control to the Devil Gene. Now in Tekken 5, Jin is the sub-boss, and how is he? He's fine. He may have a few annoying things due to Tekken 5's CPU being on ultra hard. Honestly, I'ma say he's good. Alright, now let's talk about Jinpachi Mishima. Jinpachi Mishima is Heihachi's father and the original founder of the Mishima Zaibatsu. Before the events of Tekken 1, Heihachi took over the Mishima Zaibatsu right under Jinpachi's nose, but when Jinpachi tried to take it back, he got imprisoned under the temple of Honmaru, being imprisoned by being chained through multiple parts of the body and holding up a giant rock. Sometime after, he would die from starvation, but an evil spirit ended up possessing him. It's never fully explained what the spirit actually is though. But anyway, many years pass and the explosion from the Jack Falls caused the Temple of Honmaru to be destroyed, which caused Jinpachi to finally be free from his imprisonment. After Heihachi was rumored to be dead due to the explosion, Jinpachi takes over the Zaibatsu and hosts the 5th tournament. The reason why he made the tournament was so he could find someone that could kill him in order to set himself free from the evil spirit that possessed him. Because if he was consumed by the evil spirit any further, he would become a great threat towards humanity. In the finals of the tournament, Jinpachi comes face to face with his great-grandson, Jin Kazama. Jin wins with him killing Jinpachi, giving him the piece that he wanted and turning to dust. So far out of all the Mishimas we've seen in this series, with them being anti-heroes or straight up villains, Jinpachi is probably the nicest Mishima we've seen so far, being a man of honor and wisdom. This can be shown in his long-time friendship with Wang Jinrei, and being the only family relative that Kazuya has shown respect towards. He's also the saddest Mishima and probably the saddest villain in the entire Tekken series. From having his company stolen from him, being imprisoned, eventually starving to death, being consumed by an evil spirit, and wanting to die because he simply couldn't take it anymore. Even though he's only in one canon Tekken game, he definitely stands out from his other relatives. Now let's talk about his boss fight. This single boss fight has caused people so much frustration throughout the years, simply because of how cheap he was back then. From childhood memories to casual gamers and IGN game journalists.
Namco's last PS2 Tekken is definitely its best. Even if Jinpachi Mishima is a cheap little bitch.
He has so many attributes that make him so annoying to fight against. The 3 biggest ones are his stun, teleport, and fireball. His stun is just basically the I want to win button. You're stunned for at least 3 seconds and can pretty much do whatever he wants. His teleport is something he can use to either evade or come forward. He also uses this move to steal some health, which is cheap. And lastly, his fireball does massive damage, can be used during teleport, can shoot too, and can do this. So yeah, Jinpachi was quite the antagonist in Tekken 5. From his backstory, the reason for the tournament, him being the saddest antagonist, and his boss fight. For all the reasons I stated, Jinpachi goes into the best tier. Now Tekken 6 is a special case, because in this game, you don't just fight 2 bosses, you now fight 3. So let's start off with Jin. Now Jin comes off as the new villain of the series. If you saw my last video, you already know I covered most of this, so I'ma speed run through this. Jin goes bad, starts a war, gets a lot of people killed, takes control over Alyssa, gets beat by Lars, explains his plan, one-shots Azazel, and survives. Honestly, Jin as the villain is already bizarre, considering he was the main hero of the last 3 games. But now that he's the villain, his personality had to be changed. Now he starts disrespecting his opponents with win quotes like this. And quoting lines like this. Huh, like father like son I guess. Now let's get into his boss fight. Now I'll be talking about his boss fight from the arcade battle mode, cause I don't have enough experience with the scenario campaign. His boss fight starts with him key charging himself into rage for the whole match, so that way he can get off extra damage. Outside of a few parries and some light combos, he's not too difficult. He's definitely better than the characters in the alright tier, but just like the previous video, he's getting his own tier. He's going into the edgelord tier. Alright, Nancy. Nancy is a massive robot made by the Mishima Zaibatsu. Although it's lacking in good mobility, it makes up for it for its heavy armory, machine guns, and lasers. So let's get into the boss fight. One of the first things you notice with Nancy is that it's got a lot of health, much larger than the normal fighter's health. And also, it's got a lot of attacks. An attack where it punches really fast, rocket punches that can either be shot up or down, missiles that shoot from its back, a charging attack, machine gun attacks. If there's a chance you're behind it, it can turn around and hit you. It can also jump up high, and when it lands, it can cause damage while you're on the ground. It can also shoot a laser which can be sidestep, but if you don't dodge it, it could cost you the match. Lastly, an attack where it lasers the floor and creates a hole. Again, you can sidestep this move, but if you don't, it's an instant KO. And another thing is that if you lose to Nancy, you can't run it back. You only get one round to beat it. If you lose, it's on to the next stage. Nancy is quite the boss fight in this game, with damaging attacks and its large health, honestly making it one of the hardest bosses in the series, arguably harder than Azazel. So I'ma say just for the boss fight alone, it's a good one. And speaking of which, let's talk about the final boss. Azazel is a creature which refers to itself as the rectifier of all things, and is stated to be the originator of the devil gene. So in the story of Tekken 6, Azazel basically tells Jin in his nightmares to cause a great amount of negativity around the world in order to give him a physical form. Jin only did this because he wanted to fight Azazel, destroy the devil gene, and save the world, and we all know how that turned out. In the end, the plan to give Azazel a physical form works. Then he gets packed up by Lars and then later on Jin. He doesn't have the best track record. Azazel in the story, despite being said to be a powerful being, he's kind of a pushover. Gets beaten by Lars, Jin, and later on Kazuya, and also gets his spirit sealed in Zafina later. But let's be real, no one cares about Azazel in the story, so let's talk about his boss fight. Azazel as a boss fight, whether it be in the story or arcade, he can definitely give the player a hard time. One of the first things you notice when fighting Azazel is that when you attack him, he has auto block. Even when he can move in any direction, he has infinite armor. The only way for you to get a hit on him is to interrupt him when he's about to do an attack. And speaking of attacks, let's talk about him. Swinging tail attacks, attacks where he can summon giant spikes from the ground, teleporting up to avoid attacks, Jinpachi's stun move, a laser beam, and attacks where he summons bugs and throws them at you. Azazel's attacks are honestly enough to make this a completely annoying boss fight. And it can be. The only downsides are that he has much less health than Nancy, it's easy to get a counter hit on him, and due to how large he is, his hurt box is also big, meaning you can get some pretty nice combos with him. Yeah, that's it for Azazel. Story-wise, his lore isn't the most interesting, plus he takes a lot of L's every time he's on screen. The boss fight is where he excels at, but that's pretty much it. So for now, I'ma say that Azazel in Tekken 6 is alright. In Tag 2, it's Jun Kazama. Her boss fight consists of her countering and parrying, but there's nothing else to her boss fight. Except for when she transforms into Unknown. Now Unknown in this game is much different. She doesn't mimic other fighters anymore, and she doesn't have the wolf spirit behind her. Instead, now she just has most of Jun's moves with a few of her own, like spikes coming out of the ground or air, and an attack where she can trap and slam you with her giant hand. Again, she's not that hard, just don't get caught in her trap move. Other than that, she's alright. In Tekken 7, there are 3 boss fights to talk about, just like in Tekken 6. The bosses in Tekken 7 will be played at the hardest difficulty in the story mode, which is 10 stars. So let's start off with the first character, Kazumi Mishima. Kazumi was the wife of Heihachi and the mother of Kazuya. Kazumi entered the Mishima dojo when she was a child and trained under Heihachi. Dedicated to her training and steadily improving, Heihachi considered her as his rival at the time. As time went on, Heihachi and Kazumi grew closer, and eventually, they had a child, Kazuya. But one day when they were training, Kazumi suddenly collapsed and Heihachi rushed her to bed. Heihachi then goes on to train by himself, but then he suddenly sees Kazumi. Kazumi then suddenly attacks him and then explains why she's doing this. It turns out Kazumi actually originates from the Hachijo clan, a clan whose sole purpose is to kill anyone who could become a potential threat to the world. She was sent by the clan to eliminate Heihachi because he was considered a threat. Kazumi also has the devil gene and transforms. Heihachi was able to win and walks away, but then Kazumi gets up and charges at him, only for her to get caught and gets grabbed. Kazumi then tries to sweet talk her way out, but Heihachi doesn't fall for it and snaps her neck. Heihachi then takes one last look at her and then sheds a tear. Even though she's only appeared in one game, Kazumi has definitely made an impact over the overall story. Retcon or not, she's pretty essential by being one of the first few characters in the timeline to have the devil gene. Anyway, let's get into her boss fight. On 10 stars, she's pretty tough. First off, she gets a damage boost with all of her attacks. She has a teleport, uses her tiger during her attacks, she can get out of combos, unblockables, she slowly regenerates her health, and when you manage to get her down, she charges up her rage art while having armor. For this one, use 1 back 2-1, it's the best one. And that's Kazumi. I don't really have anything else to say aside from plot relevance and a difficult boss fight. Overall, I'ma say she's good. Now let's talk about her son, Kazuya. Kazuya is the main villain of Tekken 7, but he mostly just sits on his chair for most of the game. It's only when Akuma pulls up that he finally gets off his chair. He then destroys the satellite that Heihachi used to kill him and Akuma, which also destroys an entire town. But let's fast forward to the final battle, Heihachi vs Kazuya. More specifically, True Devil Kazuya vs Ascended Heihachi. Now the first phase of the fight is not all that bad, it's a little difficult, but it's the second phase I really want to talk about because, man. True Devil Kazuya from the story mode is one of the hardest boss fights in Tekken history, and there are multiple reasons for that. Lasers that go either straight or upwards, spamming an infinite amount of rage drives, can get out of combos, then laser, regenerates his health quicker than Kazumi. When he powers up into rage mode, he gets armor for everything. Normals, unblockables, moving, anything he does, he always has armor. Until he does his rage art, then he no longer has armor. He does this not once, but twice. And it doesn't help that Heihachi is always on low health. Sure, he may take a little less damage, but it doesn't matter because Kazuya simply does more damage overall. This boss fight took me hours to beat, and honestly, I just choose his down forward 1-1. It's good at interrupting his moves, although he'll sometimes power crush his way through. When he goes into rage mode, you gotta avoid hitting him because he always has armor on until he does his rage art. But the second time he does it, you gotta attack him. He's on low health, so do what you gotta do. Once you break through, use your rage art to win. Definitely one of the most annoying boss fights in Tekken, and I don't want to do it again. He goes straight into the best. Alright, last but not least, Akuma. Akuma is a character from the Street Fighter series, who is a guest character in this game. For some reason, he's also in the story of this game. Before Kazumi goes on to face against Heihachi, Akuma goes to visit her inside the dojo, basically telling him that if she can't stop Heihachi herself, Akuma must do it for her. She tells Akuma to not only kill Heihachi, but also Kazuya as well. He fails though. Anyway, onto his boss fight. In order to unlock this boss fight, you have to beat the story, and the special chapter pops up. As for the boss fight itself, you don't just fight regular Akuma, no. Instead, you fight Shin Akuma. Akuma gameplay wise is based off Street Fighter 4, with super meters, EX moves, and focus attack dash cancel, or FADC for short. At the very start, he taunts to immediately give himself full meter, shoots out 3 Shakunetsu Hadokens, regenerates his health the fastest, he can actually do combos which do tons of damage, he can parry attacks like it's third strike, he can charge up his focus attack really quickly, can move around very fast, his super does chip damage alongside his Shakunetsu, he can use his demon flip to either use kick into down 3, kick into EX Fireball, or kick into EX Tatsu. So whenever he does this move, you gotta take a guess as to which option he's gonna use cause you never know. And he can do his rage art without even having rage. And the worst part about this super is, once you get hit by it, it's an instant KO. All I'ma say for this boss fight is this. CD3 and your infinite amount of rage drives are your best friends. If you get close enough when he does his 3 Shakunetsu, use CD3 or 1+2, and of course CD 1+4 if you manage to Wolf Splat him. Once you get him down to low health, you have to immediately use your Rage Art. For Kazuya, it's down forward 1+2. Despite Akuma not accomplishing anything in the story, he makes up for it in his ridiculously hard boss fight. But honestly, I think Akuma deserves to have that kind of boss fight. Ever since his introduction in Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, he's most of the time a playable character who's either good or top tier, or a boss fight. Shin Akuma in this game is undoubtedly the hardest boss fight in Tekken 7 and one of the hardest boss fights in Tekken history, so he's going straight to the top. Alright, last game, Tekken 8. There are two boss fights I'm gonna talk about, Azazel and Kazuya. First off, Azazel. Again. Azazel gets brought back after Kazuya manages to capture Zafina in the Colosseum. Azazel then thanks Kazuya for bringing him back, but Kazuya wants Azazel's powers, so they fight. Kazuya gets the upper hand, swings Azazel into the sky, punches him in the nuts, and takes his power. And that's it. In his boss fight, he's pretty much the same, but with different effects and some new moves. Like this AoE attack where if you don't block, he takes a huge chunk of your health. And that's it. There's nothing else to say about Azazel. Gets stomped on every time he's on screen, except this time it's worse. He's trash. And lastly, Kazuya. Kazuya is once again the main villain, but character-wise, he's better than in Tekken 7. After he absorbs Azazel's power, he transforms into his new form, becoming an even bigger threat than he already was. Now, unlike the other bosses in the series, you fight True Devil Kazuya multiple times in the story. First with Reina, Lars, and 2 whole chapters with Jin. Now as for his boss fight, he's just Devil Kazuya but with some enhancements. He has some of Azazel's moves, some crystal stuff, and an AoE attack where if you don't block, he takes a huge chunk of your health. Honestly, in terms of being a boss fight, Kazuya in this game is quite a step down compared to Tekken 7. He's not that hard of a boss to beat in this game, especially when you're playing as Angel Jin. Kazuya might be a better villain in this game, but his boss fight is certainly a downgrade. Overall, I'ma say he's alright. Now that we have reached the end of this video, it is with great honor and pleasure to inform you all that we have officially reached over 1,000 subscribers. I want to say thank you to all of you for the love and support that you've shown throughout my videos. And there are more videos on the way, like how useless are the Tekken characters videos. With that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'ma see you later.